All right, everybody, good afternoon. This is the final session for this pre-con conference. Really appreciate everybody being here. There's lots of seats up front for those coming in. You know how it is. Got some extra seats in the front. We'll get started here in just a minute. Just to say it one more time, this is the final session for the pre-conference, so thank you for being here. If you haven't had a chance already, the QR code is up on the screen. That's how we're going to type in questions, and we'll do all the questions at the end of the presentation. I hope everyone's had a wonderful conference. It's been great to catch up with a number of you. Without further ado, we'll get started. I've been told we may just blaze through this thing, and we'll shoot to definitely be out here by 3:30, if not just a few minutes early. But again, Slido app for the things, and for the last time, for the PDHs, if you haven't had a chance, be sure to sign in at the table on the outside. So with that said, we'll do the last presentation here on S-Line, a transformational corridor, and we'll turn it over to you. So thank you.
Okay, here we go. Express train coming into the station on time. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jason North, and I'm the Rail Division Director. Many of you may have already seen some version of this presentation. That's a good thing. You know, repetition actually lets things kind of like really get into you. But if you know anything about us, we're about a very important project connecting North Carolina, Virginia, and really the whole Southeast through a major project. And that's what this presentation's about. Not just making those connections regionally on the Southeast, but also connecting the project to the communities. And that's what Ryan Brumfield is going to talk about in his presentation, is how we've done this project really differently to bring people up to speed and how rail can be a major economic development and mobility solution for their community. So here we go. North Carolina's rail system. The one thing I say about this is that the difference between the rail system and like the highway system, some of the other systems in North Carolina across the country, is the rail system is almost 100% privately owned. And so nearly everything we do in rail involves some complicated agreements with private railroad companies. It's a great rail system. It reaches a lot of different locations in the state and provides us some great connections to other states around us. We're really looking at it as an asset. Our rail division is looking at this, you know, how do we get more freight moved on this system? How do we get more passenger trains moved on this system? It's about 3,600 miles of rail in this state. And every mile of it is an opportunity. Some of it is not utilized fully. Might only have one train on it a week. Might have a train on it a day. But there are opportunities for us to increase that and take the burden off of our highway and other transportation systems and put more heavy things on the rail system. Passenger rail. Right now we have one of the most successful passenger rail programs in the country. NC by Train is the brand name that we go by in North Carolina here for all of our passenger rail services. This is intercity passenger rail, not commuter rail. Currently we operate 8 daily trains, 2 of them daily to New York, D.C., and other Northeast destinations, and then 8 trains, 4 each way between Charlotte and Raleigh. And on July 10th, we'll be adding a 5th train to go to 10 trains a day with a really good departure time out of Raleigh, midday departure, and changing some of our departures out of Charlotte. We're also going to be bringing some faster trains, under 3-hour trains, to that schedule as well. So stay tuned. We'll probably be announcing that service in the next few days. Other exciting things are, if you've ridden our train service, and actually by a show of hands, who has ridden the train in North Carolina? This is an excellent, excellent thing. Y'all who haven't ridden it, ride it. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be productive between your destinations. It's a great price, and usually your company will pay for it, and I'll gladly take the funding for it too. But one of the great things that we're doing is Charlotte Gateway Station. Right now, our station in Charlotte is just a little bit outside of downtown, and we're building a new station right in uptown Charlotte, right next to the Panther Stadium, right next to the business district, in the heart of the city, and it will be more than a station; it will be a destination. Just envision a station with skyscrapers on top of it and every form of transportation you can imagine connected in one place. It's going to be a great, great thing. Part of the success story, we're having our highest ridership in our trains in 32 years. We've been running this service since 1990. And last year we handled over 522,000 passengers. We had the highest first quarter 2023 ever, with about 135,000 passengers, and our second best month in April this year. So folks, even with the current service, are really using the train. And I think as we add these additional services and new stations, that we're going to see a lot more people use this as a way to get to and from their locations. Another great, interesting data point that I like to say is the average trip on the Piedmont, Raleigh to Charlotte, is 115 miles. And the average trip on the Carolinian is over 215 miles. So the combination of the two is over 90 million passenger miles per year on those train services. It's a lot of folks, a lot of miles. Our division doesn't just do passenger trains. We're a project delivery organization. In 2017, we finished one of the biggest rail programs in the country with the Piedmont Improvement Program. We continue that today with over $1 billion currently managed in the STIP by our division, working closely with our partners, the 14 highway divisions, those that have rail, as well as communities and MPOs and all kinds of organizations across the state, and of course, the great private engineering firm and other consulting organizations that we work through that you all represent. We're happy to be part of this delivery of things that we're doing in rail in the state. FRA has issued a new program called Corridor Identification and Development. And our state is probably one of the most robust in the country in going after this new seed money to develop a statewide passenger rail system. So expanding beyond just the core network that we're looking at right now between Raleigh and Charlotte, reaching destinations as far west as Asheville, as far east as Morehead City and Wilmington, south to Fayetteville, west to Winston-Salem, and all kinds of points in between. We submitted 12 corridors under this FRA program, and anyone selected gets an initial $500,000 in project development money to advance that project. We have heard from cities all over the state that they're excited about this and plugging into a system that they see as successful in a way to move people in the future. Hopefully those will be announced, I think, late summer, early fall this year, and we'll have a lot of opportunities, to move forward with some scoping with you all. But the thing that really ties the thing together, the thing that will make North Carolina successful in passenger rail, is not just looking at a state-only system, an intrastate system, but connecting our system to the wider world. And that's where the S-Line project really is important. Virginia also is seeing record ridership in their system. They have services that extend from Washington, D.C., from the Northeast Corridor up that goes all the way to New York and Boston, and those services connect to the Tidewater region. They also have services that connect out to Roanoke and the western part of their state. They're seeing record ridership as well as people really look to rail as being a productive way to move. But these two systems, other than the Carolinian, are really disconnected. And the S-Line, so beyond it just being a great, more direct route, is the way that we create the capacity and the modern railroad of the future to really advance rail in this whole entire region. So this gives you a little idea of like the population density that we're looking at that connect the various mega regions along this route. In Virginia, in the D.C. area and points north, 10 million people. In the Tidewater and Richmond area is another over 3 million people. And in North Carolina, over 6 million today. That's a total of about 20 million people in population that's directly connected along this corridor. And that is expected to increase to 25 million by 2040. And how do you move that number of people? And how do you do it productively? Well, you look at, advanced transportation systems. So we're looking at a corridor that cuts over an hour of travel time off of that route between Virginia and North Carolina, but also does it in a way you can take multiple trains a day, and it increases the capacity between those destinations. It's critical to further expanding this North Carolina passenger rail system. It increases the freight network resiliency, It has the environmental benefits of rail by just the sheer volume of people that you can use, that you can put on a train. And then, of course, it expands service to disadvantaged and underserved regions. This is a interstate system that allows non-vehicular populations or folks that choose to leave their vehicle home, ways to get around without a vehicle. A lot of things have been accomplished on Richmond to Raleigh, which is the S-Line project. We've completed NEPA. That was in 2017. We were one of the first states to do such a massive document, 162 miles of rail and 82 miles of roadway that were cleared in a record of decision in 2017. We've been underway with quarter acquisition. Virginia's already acquired their portion of the quarter from CSX. We're really close on our portion with CSX from where Virginia stopped, bringing it into Raleigh. We have significant community engagement ongoing. Ryan will talk about that. And then we won this massive grant last year, the 30% engineering under the 2021 CRISI, the largest grant in the CRISI program, FR's CRISI grant program, programming, to advance to a 30% design. Take this thing to real survey-grade, detailed design. We're going through the PEF onboarding process, and we're getting ready to really get going here with detailed design. I'm pushing my team to go as fast as they can. They know that. But we're not stopping there. In the rail world, we don't have formula funding. So we basically are creating a strategy of grant submissions to keep this thing going and build on the momentum that we had. So we've submitted under CRISI for last year another grant to take us to 60% engineering and finish some of the right-of-way acquisition. And then we've also submitted one of the largest grants in North Carolina's history, over $1 billion, to really build this line starting from Raleigh and going to Wake Forest. That first segment that will extend service up to Wake Forest with our current Piedmont service. The most complicated piece of the work is down in that area. So that's really what piece we want to get going on immediately. And then we're preparing for upcoming grants, looking at fiscal year 23 and 24. I'll go into those in a little more detail. I'm going to kind of blaze through some of these, but the 30% engineering, the grant that we won last year, was comprised of about $58 million of federal funds and $38 in non-federal matching. The STIP was really important in this process, using the state-funded or the Highway Trust-funded projects in the STIP to match those federal grants is a message that we're pushing to the MPOs. We really need projects in the STIP to continue to leverage them to get at the scope we're looking at. But about $71.4 million in opportunity, just under this one grant, for detailed design and other activities for this program. This is a lot here on this slide, but we've got a lot of activities underway. We're starting to really push out the RFP packages and get consultants underway. Probably the most significant thing on this slide is under rail design. We've got a contract coming out, or an RFP coming out on June 1st for the North Carolina design contracts under the 30% engineering. So if you hadn't heard it before, you heard it here. Get ready. And then we've got roadway design coming up as well. I mentioned that this is a lot of roadway design in this project. We want to untangle the railroad and roadway conflicts. We want to make this a grade separated corridor, just like an interstate corridor. I was moved by Drew Cox's presentation on I-95. He's very passionate about that project. We're passionate about this too. We want to see a good facility built. And we are building one of the most technologically advanced railroads in the Southeast, 110 miles an hour, 91 new grade separations, no at-grade crossings, concrete ties, high-speed switches, high-level platforms so you can board right onto the train at a level platform. Freight bypass tracks, so there's a reduced conflict where freight needs high and wide clearance for their loads, positive train control, which is advanced signal systems, and the like. So the team's out there. We've got the survey underway. We've been working with DOT location surveys, aviation division. We've been working with photogrammetry, using LiDAR actually to do the top of rail survey on the track, trying to get at that really fast. And then we've got traditional survey starting. We really need to get that Raleigh to Wake Forest segment going quick, so we're ready to start building that piece right away. And then Virginia is doing their survey procurement and design contracts kind of together, and that date is to be determined. Working on environmental screening. We're making sure that any change in condition out there from the completion of the record decision in 2017 is accommodated or noted. And then we're working with our partners at FRA to make sure that we don't need to make any adjustments or work with them to make adjustments to the document, the reevaluation process. We're realigning the mess out of this railroad. It was built back in 1900. The curves that were laid out for a breakneck speed of 50 miles an hour, not going to work for 110 miles an hour. And we don't want to put vehicles in conflict with a 110-mile-an-hour train. So we are doing a lot of new location work. You can see it right here, and it goes all up and down the line. So we're building the railroad of the future and the roadways of the future. Got a couple that are already in the STIP. Because we had completed the record decision 2017, we immediately went to the STIP. We've got projects in there, 4 projects currently, grade separations between Raleigh and Wake Forest that are funded, then being leveraged for the grants, and we're advancing them to construction to happen over the next several years. I know that Chris Warner would be happy to say that we're following PDN. We are, and working with through that process with Technical Services Unit and all the other supporting units. Really is a partnership. We can't do this project on our own. We need the support of all the department units. We need the support of the industry, and we need everybody's best ideas to get this thing done. On procurement, we've got the quarter being broken into multiple contracts. You can imagine, 162 miles is a lot to bite off, So we've got the RFPs being issued, and again, anticipating the second half of 2023. Here's a schedule. Every time I bring up a schedule, my boss tells me it's not fast enough. I say we can only move as fast as we got funding, but if we have funding, we can move fast. So we're going to be looking at alternative delivery methods and the like. But this is basically the 30% production schedule. Unless the money drops out of the sky, we're going to be, and then things have to move even faster. But that's what we're hopeful for. We need to start to see this project hit the ground and become something that we can put trains on and actually start operating as quickly as possible to show that we can deliver. Lots of grant opportunities upcoming. The biggest program at FRA that supports this type of work is what they call the Fed-State Partnership for Intercity Passenger Rail. There's a lot of billions and billions of dollars in that program, and we're one of the most competitive, most ready projects nationwide to take advantage of the funding, as long as we've got the non-federal match. And so that is a lot. We spend a lot of time in our division working with leadership, working with the industry to make sure that we've got those opportunities in place so that we can take advantage of the upcoming federal funding. This is new funding. This isn't taking any of the highway funding. This is new funding on top. We're looking at a phased delivery strategy. You can see a map of sort of the route of the new alignment there, and then we've got some kind of a graphic here showing you what the CRISI, the 30% engineering, covers the full route, the full length from Raleigh to Richmond. And then to take advantage of the funding, we're looking at really applying for everything from the 60% on into construction under the segments you kind of see there over several years, working with our partners. Again, we applied for over $1 billion for that first segment to get from Raleigh to Wake Forest Road. It gets a little less cost. The cost per mile goes way down as you go farther north, but we do need a lot of match again to help us get all these different segments completed. Working closely with our partners in Virginia, Amtrak, FRA, and others. This is the schedule that whenever I present it, they say it was not fast enough. But it is a very fast and aggressive schedule when we're talking about a 162-mile-long project with 82 miles of roadway. But you could see, our goal, if funding becomes available, is to have this project delivered, at least the segment between Raleigh and Petersburg, a place we call Ettrick, that first 130 miles by 2031, service in 2031. That is a very aggressive schedule, but it's dependent on the funding and the ability to get at that funding. So next steps, continue preparation, submittal of grant applications. That's what we do. We finalize agreements between NCDOT and its stakeholders critically. We've got some critical railroad agreements and other agreements that we're working on right now. We continue our strong coordination with our partners. We're expediting the preliminary engineering program, looking for innovative ideas. And continue to look for opportunities to accelerate full delivery of the Raleigh to Richmond and expand passenger rail services. This is just a slide for our current partners. We keep seeing this list grow. It's going to probably be 2 or 3 slides as we get further into it, but it's exciting to work with such a large amount of the industry in delivering such a major project. Here's our QR code for getting connected with our S-Line projects. I'll leave it up there just for a second if you don't already have it, but we do want to connect with the industry. If you guys want to receive information, make sure you get locked in on that. Ryan, are you after this? You're right after this. All right, I'm going to leave this up, and you can come up here and do that. Thank you, everybody.
All right, good afternoon. So I want to take a step back from transportation for a minute and ask for some feedback from you all. When you think about a community, what goals come to mind? What would a community's goals, the mayor of the community and the council, just at a basic level, what do communities want to achieve? What's that? What's the purpose of the revenue? Yep. Any other input? What's that? Safety and health. Yep. Yes. So yeah, infrastructure, potentially growth, quality of life, safety and health, economic vitality, those types of things, right? That's what a community wants to achieve, right? And so how does a transportation project help them achieve that? If you have feedback on that as well, anyone want to answer that? What is a transportation project's role in helping achieve the community's goals? Connectivity. Yeah, connectivity, access, mobility. Helps achieve all those community goals. So if we're not doing a transportation project with those goals in mind and developing the project to help achieve the goals, then what's the point of the project, right? So S-Line is a great example of this, and the partnership's been incredible with the rail division, with IMD and rail working together to think about those community goals, hear from the communities what those goals are, and then develop the product in a way to help them maximize meeting those goals. So that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit. The big way we've been able to achieve that is through our transit-oriented development study that's wrapping up now. And then from there, we're working to design and build mobility hubs in each community, not rail stations, but a mobility hub that connects where the rail stops to all the other modes of transportation and activities and services in the community. And I will state the obvious that this does say Research and Innovation Summit, so I'll just state the obvious before everyone notices that. This is what happens when you procrastinate and make changes to slides at the last minute, that I just noticed that was still in there. But the content is fine. It's just that that's on there. So, but basically what we're trying to do is leverage this future rail service to maximize community benefits. Again, thinking about those goals, really taking advantage of this future rail service as an opportunity to help the communities move towards their goals and vision. We're using the transit-oriented development planning process to establish those goals, be clear about what those goals are and the vision in each community, and then develop tangible strategies to move towards that vision, leveraging the rail service and the investment that comes with it. And then through the Mobility Hubs project, we're planning and designing those hubs of activity to achieve transit-oriented development goals and, again, move towards the vision and community goals. So the Integrated Mobility Division, we cover public transportation, bicycle, and pedestrian programs for the state. Used to be 2 separate divisions, and we merged in 2019. What we're doing is moving towards a vision where we eliminate transportation barriers and have an equitable system that works for everyone, where unmet needs in transportation are minimized, where everyone has equal access to opportunities and services, where our multimodal options rival driving in terms of time, convenience, and cost. And you may have heard this in the last presentation for Complete Streets as well, but these are important tenets of everything that we do, is working towards this vision. And making it eventually so that it's as easy to get places without a car as it is for all of us now to jump in our car and drive anywhere in the state, given the vast miles of roads that we have in our good road state. and eventually zero transportation-related fatalities, injuries, or greenhouse gas emissions. So that's the vision that we're working towards. If we're successful with achieving our goals, we will realize a system where these outcomes are occurring every day. We think there's a kind of an ecosystem that will exist with these 4 pillars to help us achieve those outcomes. First of all, we have to have layers of multimodal services across the state at the local level to connect you to places nearby, interlocal to connect you across your community, regional to connect you to other communities, and interregional to connect you to other regions. And so intercity rail and passenger rail services is one very key backbone component of having that layered approach to multimodal services across the state. Mobility hubs is central to achieving this vision as well. We have to have physical infrastructure to eventually connect all these layers together to make it easy for people to transfer between modes and services. And then also we can leverage those hubs as activity centers for the communities as well, so it can serve multiple goals. Connected by complete streets so that you can get to the hub safely and get to your destination safely, whatever mode you're using. And then integrated by mobility as a service, again, envisioning one day going from Murphy to Manteo on a single digital ticket, thinking about how we can bring all the different modes and services together to make it as easy as it would be for me to jump in my car and drive to Murphy or Manteo. Being able to do that through a single digital ticket on your phone, that's mobility as a service. So making it as easy to use that robust layered system as possible and connect physically and safely through complete streets and mobility hubs, those 4 pillars collectively, if we can do that, we will make a lot of progress towards that vision. So S-Line is a microcosm of these 4 pillars. We're developing a backbone regional system, but we're thinking about the local, interlocal, and interregional connections. We're thinking about how we connect you from the S-Line when you get off the train to all the other services in the community through the local transit system, through e-bikes and scooter share services and micromobility. So it's got the layered multimodal services down. We're thinking about mobility hubs instead of rail stations. We're thinking about all the different modes connecting at hubs. We're thinking about the complete streets, the safe connections to those hubs, and then we are thinking about single ticketing, how we integrate that in the future. So a lot of how we're working to plan that and move towards that is through our transit-oriented development project. We received a grant from the Federal Transit Administration in 2020, $900,000, and then matched with contributions from each of the participating communities. And this has a few key focus areas. A lot of it is about establishing that vision for the overall corridor, but also vision and goals for each community as it relates to the project. We are identifying station locations and station areas to study further, doing market impact analyses, looking at housing impacts and housing conditions, and then thinking again about the other transit modes and services and how they connect to the S-Line in the future. So a lot of the implementation plans we're creating are around land use planning, zoning, and regulatory policy changes, infrastructure investments, and funding strategies, again, to help the community achieve its goals as it relates to the project. Central to this project, and very similar to what Jason covered, is partnerships and coordination, community engagement to learn what those goals are, and to make sure this is a community-driven process. A few key values that have really driven a lot of this work. It's a very much an equity-driven process and outcomes, community champion visioning, a lot of community engagement, and a lot of interest and input from community leaders. Implementation-focused market analysis that's grounded in place and reality. It's very specific to each community. And then placemaking through integration of land use, design, and transportation. Community engagement occurred in multiple phases throughout this project. Again, we received the grant in November 2020, and we started the project in spring 2021. We've done multiple rounds of community engagement at the early stages on establishing those community goals, and then more recently on sharing design concepts and getting feedback from the communities about those concepts. This is an example of our market analysis for Franklinton, and you can see here some of the types of findings that we're including in our market readiness and market analysis portions of the study. Basically this is if the rail service happens, when it happens, what the demand will be for different uses, land uses in each community. And then we're providing community playbooks and implementation plans for each community. So again, think about the goals, but then we're giving them really specific strategies and playbooks on how they can start implementing start implementing changes to policies and programs and identifying funding to move towards those goals. So this, again, is some examples of the types of recommendations for Franklinton. And here's the implementation side for Franklinton as well, and has some additional examples here of what we're including. But again, these are very specific, tangible recommendations they can move forward with quickly, knowing that this will be a multi-year process to move forward. Some lessons learned from this planning process: obviously, there's constant change. It's difficult even, a lot of these communities are growing very quickly, so there's changes occurring to land use as we're doing the planning and the studying. And being able to integrate all of those other plans and moving pieces as we do this plan is a challenge. But that's why stakeholder engagement and having the local leaders involved throughout the process is so important, so they can inform us of those other plans and other strategies. And then, another challenge and what's really made this very beneficial, I think, is making tailored plans for each community, again, specific recommendations based on the needs of each community. Another important piece is having, again, coordination, and we have what's called an S-Line coalition. We've had advisory committees that are the elected official level and technical committees that are the staff level meeting frequently throughout this project to advise us on issues in their community. But that has served a few purposes. It's informing us to help guide the study, but it's also driving momentum and interest in this project, driving discussions locally, and really it's a catalyst for them to have conversations to start the strategy development in earnest and not just do the plan, but we have some communities that are actively working to implement the plan as it's being finalized because of the momentum around this project. So really excited again for the next phase. Once we've wrapped up the TOD study, which will happen here in the next few weeks, we will start our mobility hub planning phase of work. We received a RAISE grant, and that's the cover of the application there in the bottom left. We received this grant last year, and this will go through the Federal Transit Administration to fund NEPA, preliminary engineering, and feasibility studies for each of the communities along the S-Line for mobility hubs. So we're still working through the details on how that's going to be rolled out, but we'll be working obviously with the consulting industry to complete those and likely have different phases of work for feasibility studies, NEPA, and PE. So more to come on that, but hopefully many of you are interested in helping us with that. So again, just lastly on the mobility hubs, this is really helping us advance planning and design in 7 communities. And this is the next phase and next iteration of the work along the S-Line. The TOD work will feed into the mobility hub work. We've identified the broad areas where the hubs will be, and then this grant will help us really hone in on specific sites and study the feasibility and do some initial steps of design for those sites. We also think another key thing here is with mobility hubs, they may have independent utility from the rail itself. So there's a chance that we may build some mobility hubs that could be servicing existing transit services now before service for the S-Line starts in the future. So that's the other beauty of this. We can move forward with those if we have funding in place. They'll serve an immediate value for the communities, and then we'll layer in the rail service later. So that's all we have. Again, we appreciate your attention and the partnership. I know we've worked with many of you in here. A lot of folks in this room are part of this project. It's so critical to make this successful because it's so massive. All of us have to work together to make it work. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Let's give a quick round of applause for the presentation. And we have a couple of Slido questions up there for you guys to read and address.
Looks like you, Jason.
Yeah, looks like me. But I'm probably going to call a friend. Phone a friend.
All right. This is a question talks about what stage in PDN is.
It's hard to production.
Yeah, I can't read it.
Here's something I have to read here. And you can take the mic out.
And it's Brad Smythe in the room. There he is, Brad Smythe.
So 30% is in line with PDN 2RD1. So alignment defined, horizontal, vertical.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. All right. Pre-proposal meetings have mentioned the need for ORD. Well, I don't have my glasses. On these projects, to what level will the rail unit select based on the ability to deliver projects in ORD? Brad Smythe again. Glad my team is in the room with us.
ORD is going to be an expectation. So the advertisement will include language about addressing the firm's capabilities in ORD, and we'd expect that to be how project's designed.
Great. Okay.
Got a question over here.
All right.
Thank you. Are all the, I just have two questions actually. Are all the other state agencies on board with having a separate freight line or parallel freight line through the corridor? Is that, did I see that correctly?
So that's a good question. So it's not, so what we're doing with the S line is there is a high volume freight route right now called the A line where the current pass trains, there's few of them, but they intermix with freight, a lot of freight. They're like 30 trains a day. And that line operates through Rocky Mount, Wilson, and on down to Fayetteville. The S line is a very low utilization line. It's basically local freight only, operates at 25 miles an hour today. And there are customers all along that line. But what we're doing with the design is improving that, obviously, to a super railroad. And in the locations where freight needs access or has access to the system, we're building auxiliary tracks, just like you would on a roadway, auxiliary lanes, or service roads, tracks, that would serve those customers and allow a more fluidity in the network.
And all, the other state agencies this is for all the state agencies through the entire corridor. So if I want to go from here to D.C., I don't have to worry about freight being on my track. I can take that 110 miles per hour from here to D.C. on that.
Well, that's an excellent point. So there is, there's always going to be some intermixing of traffic, but the goal is to separate to the extent possible.
Okay.
Virginia's working on a project on their high volume corridor where they actually have purchased right of way and are intending to separate the passenger and freight volume of trains onto separate double track systems within that corridor. So this is an extension of that principle as we go south.
The other one I may be for Ryan. Is the intent for there to be free Wi-Fi provided for the?
Yeah, Ryan's out of luck. That's me again. Now, unless there's microtransit with free Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, at the mobility hub.
Yeah, because I noticed that you said that they will be able to purchase a ticket on the devices for continuous travel from bus to train, and so is that come with being able to provide wireless services so that they can continue to do that, on the bus or the train. Okay.
So we do have free Wi-Fi on the train. That actually is a major component of the services because when people get on the train, they typically like to do things other than driving, or so that is a major amenity of what we have on the train.
Any other questions? Say either the Slido app or live and in person with the microphone.
I think we did pretty good on time.
Yeah. We get one more round of applause. Let's call it.
All right.
For those interested, we do have one more question that popped up, but feel free to continue to vote out.
Any idea on that one?
It's an interesting question for this group. I'll answer real quick. Short answer is yes, private concessionaires, but it would be subject to railroad labor laws, so we'd have to check and see, we'd have to be coordinated with, the labor regulations as well.
Thank you.